Talk about Imelda. Let's start with Imelda because that's the one that most people across the U.S. are watching very, very closely. Let's get you some video right now from out of the Bahamas because right now the center of Imelda is actually sitting right over the Bahamas. This is Nassau, and yeah, you can see, this is not the highest frame rate on this camera, but if you look at those trees on the right side of the screen, you can definitely tell that the wind is kicking there. I mean, there's a tropical storm literally in progress that's sitting right over some of these islands. And, it doesn't look that impressive on the satellite imagery, right? When you look at it on visible from a little bit earlier because the sun has now gone down. But, it doesn't look anything like Humberto, the Category 4 storm. But this is the early stages. I know we've been following this for a little while. But as it moves up toward the north and makes that right turn, it is going to gain strength. There's going to be some strengthening that happens up here off the southeast coast. Let me show you the forecast cones, which also update with every update that the National Hurricane Center puts out. What was the change in the cone, Joe? Did you notice what it was?
No, just a slight difference in the
Yeah, just a super slight difference that was almost not noticeable. So I think the story with this is going to be Bermuda because we could have a hurricane making a very close pass at it. And this is going to be the second one, by the way. I know I'm going, this is driving me nuts. We've got two storms that are going to be going toward Bermuda. Humberto is actually the first one. If we're talking Bermuda, let me go in the correct time sequence. So here's the big storm. This was the big powerful one that we were looking at the satellite image on. Category 4, it's going to lose some strength, going to make a close pass at Bermuda. Now, Bermuda is under a tropical storm watch because even though the cone is toward the west of the island, remember the cone's telling us where could the center of the storm go. So maybe the center of the storm is here. It's a very large storm. It would have it might have a very big wind field. In fact, it does have a very big wind field, and it may still have one when it gets there. And then here is Imelda. Look at that right turn. That really is something else. I mean, that's like turning right on the street. It's almost a right angle. How many more ways can we use the word right? But you notice the strength here. It gets up to hurricane strength by Tuesday afternoon. Probably stays a Category 1 hurricane. Could make it up to Category 2 strength as it gets a little bit closer to Bermuda. But Bermuda is in the cone with this one, meaning that there's a possibility of a direct hit. There's also a higher likelihood that it misses somewhere pretty close to the island, which would still have some impacts. And again, this would be on Thursday. So we just saw Tuesday, Bermuda's going to be watching Humberto, and that's going to make a close pass. And then Thursday, we got another one. So, long story short, what I think we have here are two Bermuda storms as far as the major significant impacts. And yes, the Bahamas are taking a hit from a tropical storm right now, but this is nothing that they haven't seen before. Let me focus in on what's going to happen in the U.S. I know we've had a lot of people waiting for that. This, I think, is going to be one of the biggest deals, the wave action. The ocean is going to get nasty. You've seen situations before where we've had storms that have been like way off toward the east, and we still have really bad rip currents and high waves, et cetera. I think this forecast model shows things really nicely. So this is Sunday afternoon. Watch this part of the coast and how much it changes between now and... yeah, let's go to even Monday night into Tuesday morning, but we'll stop it here Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday night. Look at that. Big waves, rip currents, I think are going to be a very big deal. So, look, I always hate to say this. I'm not trying to stop tourism or any of that kind of stuff for people going to the beaches. I would just not get in the water. I mean, if it's me, I'm not getting in the water. Obviously, you've got people like surfers that know things a little bit better. Know how to deal with the big waves and the rip currents and things like that. But I would not be letting my kids in this water whatsoever starting tomorrow, honestly, starting tomorrow through the entirety of the end of the week. Because even once the storms move farther off toward the east, look how the wave action is still pretty impressive. We'll have to watch out during the high tides with maybe a little bit of inundation. I don't think the coastal flooding is going to be too bad, maybe some minor coastal flooding. And let me show you what I'm talking about. When you look at the future track on this, and again, we're focused in here on Imelda, you will see Humberto on the right side of your screen. But there's going to be periods where we'll have some gusty wind with some onshore flow. On the north side of this, remember, it's spinning counterclockwise. So we're going to have the onshore flow, and it's going to be a strengthening storm here. So, if you live in northeastern Florida or any coastal part of, I would say, Georgia, South Carolina, especially southeastern North Carolina, watch out during the high tides. I think we're going to have at least some flooding along the coast. Overall, appears that it will likely be, at least if it stays on this track, relatively minor, but that's still an impact that's going to be noticed. I mean, you're going to know that there's a storm there. Wind's going to be gusting around 20 to 30 miles an hour consistently, maybe some gusts over 40, and then it just takes that turn toward the east. Now, let me back this up a little bit, because while Imelda is pretty close to the coast here, we're going to be in some outer bands. This is going to be some really, really heavy rain, especially in coastal parts of the Carolinas. So not only are we going to have to watch out for some significant flooding, flooding is definitely a possibility here. It's a level 2 out of 4 risk from the Weather Prediction Center. That's what they're putting it at right now. But also within some of those thunderstorms, within some of the outer bands, you can see some wind gusts over 40 miles per hour. So again, I think the take-home point here is that it is, I mean, you look at this future track image and you see this storm that's just off the coast. I mean, it's so close. This, could be a hurricane by Tuesday. But the difference between being in the center of the storm versus even being on the outskirts of the storm is absolutely massive. I mean, it's a huge difference. When you see all these numbers that we're talking about, when we show you the update, the Hurricane Center just came out with the update. Now it's got 40 mile per hour winds. Or in the stronger situations, now it's got 120 mile per hour winds. That's literally just referring to a very small radius of wind that's really close to the center of the storm. Now, sometimes the storm has a big wind field, and you'll get tropical storm force wind that will extend pretty far from the center, but you get the idea. I mean, the middle of a storm making landfall leads to the biggest impacts by far, and it's a very sharp drop-off after that. So this is all very, very good news when it comes to the forecast here. I mentioned the flood risk. Let's see if the Weather Prediction Center is updated here. Yeah, they've got kind of the same idea. So this is for Monday and then Tuesday, both days level 2. And you notice it's actually a higher flood risk up in coastal parts of the Carolinas as opposed to Florida. Speaking of Florida, let's see what it looks like in Miami Beach right now. Yeah, looks like a pretty normal night. Let me check out the radar here for a second and just see what it's looked like throughout the day. We've had a couple of showers around. So, when you look at the radar, this gives us a better idea than satellite of where it's actually raining. There's Atlantic Beach, Florida. Everything's kind of looking normal, honestly. Do you see anything of note on there, Chris? Yeah. So that gives you an idea of, even though you've actually got a tropical storm not terribly far off toward the southeast, you're not getting really any significant impacts yet. But again, you can see this broad counterclockwise circulation, and some of this tropical moisture has made its way into Florida. So yeah, it's been associated with the storm. Some of these showers trying to make their way up into parts of the Carolinas and Georgia. That will gradually progress farther inland as we get through the night tonight and into tomorrow. And then the next couple of days, it's a pretty decent amount of rain. I mentioned the flood risk is certainly going to be there. Let me show you how much rain we're going to get here. So focusing on the Carolinas and Georgia here, the closer to the coast you live, the higher the rain totals are going to be. Look at this. We're right on the edge. I know this storm is sitting right off the southeast coast, and it's going to be very close. But, I mean, what a difference. I mean, the amount of rain that's going to be falling just off the coast on the ocean is very, very significant compared to the, 2 to 3 inches, maybe locally 3 to 5 if you get caught under a couple of thunderstorms in coastal parts of the Carolinas. 1 to 2 inches in Charleston is what the official forecast is. Don't be surprised if that's 2 to 3. Same deal in Myrtle Beach and Wilmington and places like that. You get farther toward the north and the numbers are going to go down. You get further inland and the numbers are going to go down as well. But I just want to reiterate this. It's probably going to be a bad idea to be in the water if you don't know what you're doing with rip currents basically throughout the entire work week. All right, I saw some people on the beach today. We had Katie Byrne earlier. She was out in coastal Georgia, Tybee Island, and there were plenty of people on the beach. I would just say next few days it's going to get a lot worse. We're going to see a lot of rip currents and some pretty good wave action. So, yeah, I don't want to oversell it. Could we say overall it's not going to be that big of a deal compared to a landfalling storm? Yeah, for sure. But you're going to know it's there.